Can you hear
All
me,
right.
sir?
Well, yes, I can hear you perfectly. You are welcome. It's nice meeting you,
Thank you very much,
Sheikh
sir.
Link. It's amazing. I've never met physically. I don't think we've met one on one.
No,
But
we've not.
yes, I know so much about you, and I want to thank you for coming. So I'll get to you in a moment. Um, well, good evening, everyone. This is Darius Marquez. It's my pleasure to come your way this evening to start to do the meeting edition of what is called the Nation Building Summit. And just like I've been telling our friends, this is not a church program. This is a platform whereby we interact with all kinds of people, especially those who are passionate and who have something to offer as far as the building of our nation is concerned. And today, by the grace of God, I have one such people who, by the grace of God, has been involved over the years. What we want to talk about today is how to, construct what is called the power of advocacy. So basically, we just want to look at that social construct that is called advocacy, so that we can all learn, and by the grace of God, some of the things we've learned, we can now translate those things into, advocacy in all sectors of our national life, because I believe all of us are very much interested in the development of our nation. All of us are very much interested in seeing to it that it is well with Nigeria. So I have the pleasure of this evening of bringing to us someone that I've heard so much about, and I've taken time to also study some of the things that he's done. And that is Mr. Shema Osoya, popularly known as Galink. So you're welcome,
Thank you
Galink.
very much.
Nice having you here.
Thank you very much for having me.
I
You have
think
me
your
an
daughter
invited
was
guest.
a part of
Oh
it.
my God.
Wow. Galink, thank you very much for coming. I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, it's amazing that we've not met one on one, and but thank God for the power of technology. We are today interacting on the same platform, despite the fact that we never met physically. And thank you very much for coming. So I just wanted to do a brief introduction of yourself, and tell the audience what you do, and we're just going to questions from there.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Shegun Awosanya, and an advocate. I'm a land economist, a realtor, a valuer, a futuristic brand, media, tech, research, business and strategic digital communication consultant, who is also deeply involved in nation building via my numerous advocacies that has helped Nigerians find succor. I enlighten young Nigerians daily from my Segalink Twitter handle and as well as on Quora towards political awareness, towards socio-economic development, towards political participation and national integration. I sit on numerous boards across business sectors and currently the CEO of Aliens Media and the founder and president of Social Intervention Advocacy Foundation, and also the convener of NSAS Reform Police NG Advocacy, not the protest, Rise as One, Responsible Parenting, and NIS 2000 advocacies, to mention just a few. Generally, I am a civil rights leader and a social justice advocate uh, who is more interested in universal institutional reforms in Nigeria. And my position, you know, my my vision actually, and the vision of the organization, which is SEAF, is to ensure that we have the necessary sustainable bridge over all institutional gaps in Nigeria. For example, every single problem you have in this country can be linked to institutional gaps. And institutional gaps can be the gap between the gown and the town. In other words, if you look at the level of devastation and relegation and dereliction in the education sector, you will find that can't come out and be useful in society. By the time they come out, whatever they have been taught in school is no longer is anachronistic to what is required on the field. So it shows that there's a gap right there. You have a lot of engineers who graduate with first class who cannot fit into any engineering company enough to do something that can impact society directly. that is a gap. So as we have it in educational sector, we have it in all institutions. But it is our firm belief that if we begin to bring this together, right from the most critical institution in any civilization, which talks about law and order, as a where, and the institutions concerned with law and order, and that talks about the criminal justice system as a where, so we don't want a situation whereby we have a a community, a society, an environment, or a nation that has a problem, a fundamental problem with the criminal justice system. Because there's nothing you want to enforce, there's no justice you can actually find without a formidable criminal justice system. And when I say criminal justice system, I mean the prisons, which has always been a warehouse, a common warehouse in Nigeria, where you just put people who are coming from the police and the justice system, which most of, especially, it doesn't really matter what they have done, whether they're innocent or guilty, you just warehouse them there pending the time they are released. There's no action going on there. Unlike other transfer in every society, they try as much as possible to rehabilitate people, so that for what they have done, you're not punishing them for what they have done per se, but you're telling them how to properly to correct them so that they can fit into society. But what happens with the warehouse system is that when people go in to the prisons, they come out worse than ever. So the society will not be able to accept them. They themselves will not be able to accept society. So they want to commit another crime so that they can return to where they belong. So you find people becoming masters and lords within the police, within the prison system. Also, we look at the justice system. Because of the lack of political will enough to bring about the necessary change, because of the lack of proper separation of power within the polity, the arms of government, the judiciary has always been subservient to the executive, as well as the legislature, especially at the state level. So with that, you are going to have more of the vices that tends to populate our prisons unjustly, because of the justice system that is more or less porous and that is inundated with so many cases than they can ever imagine. For example, now we have less than 20 criminal justice lawyer or judges in Lagos State, for example. So, and you are expecting them to do over 3,000 cases without adjourning. So you find a man who has stolen tomatoes, spending 10 years awaiting trial because they have not been able to hear the case. And also we went into the police system, which is the entry point into the criminal justice system, and where we have the majority of the problem, with police brutality, with police impunity, and several other vices. And that's exactly where we decided to start with, by ensuring that we not only talk about the problems, which is this is where most people pitch a tent at. They catastrophizes the situation. They blow things out of proportion. They want to pitch a tent there to be shouting one thing, complaining, dragging people down, demonizing people, cursing out people, and all. And that doesn't change anything. Because from what I have learned from the leaders of the past, this is supposed to be an introduction. I'm already writing a book. Anyway,
it's all right.
Okay, so
I will still come back to some of those things. I just wanted you to hit the ground running.
So we felt that it's proper that we engage, and then while we're engaging the authorities, highlighting the issues that we have on ground. And the issues are simple, because we believe that when you are running an advocacy as against what we have been used to, a lot of people did Aluta in school. So when they came out of school, the Aluta came out with them, and they see Nigeria as a big campus and the president as the VC. So it is the same way they engage their school authorities that they engage the government. And whereas it doesn't work that way, the bigger society doesn't function that way, because Nigeria itself, the kind of rules there were, the kind of constitution we have and all, it was built actually to fail. It was built actually in a dysfunctional way, that it doesn't really serve the people, but it serves the rulership. In other words, the imperialists. The imperialists are here, but the local imperialists are very much around, and they are benefiting from the system in its bent and broken state. So if you are engaging a broken system under a quasi-democracy, where you don't really have a genuine democracy as it were, where human rights is still a theory, it is not yet in practice, you have to engage in such a way that shows that you understand how the system works. And that's precisely why we designed an advocacy that tends to build a bridge over institutional gaps. Let me stop there and take your question.
All right. Thank you very much. I mean, that is quite a mouthful and robust introduction. And but you see, let me start. The first question is this: I mean, you are a man of many parts. How do you put all this together? I mean, seeing so many things that you do. Before coming to advocacy proper, I just want to ask that how are you able to put? I mean, you've talked about 7, 8, 9 different things that you do. How are you? And you're also a family man. I could see your daughter. So how do you create a balance? You're also a member of the Judicial Committee now, in
Yeah.
Lagos for NSAS. How do you put all this together? How do you create balance?
As they say, the arm of flesh will always fail. But when you are with God, you're with majority, and God actually said we can do all things through Christ that strengthens us. So I believe that
Amen.
if I am not actually using the gifts that I've been given with the skills that I've learned, both the spirit of leadership and the leadership spirit, enough to impact society and influence society, I am actually going to, the devil is going to occupy those things that are idle. So in order not to give room for the devil, I have to occupy myself with every single thing that I've been practicing in my own corridor, in my own little place, in my own backyard. My bear and lion experience, has prepared me to confront whichever Goliath that you're looking at, whether you're talking about policies, whether you're talking about culture of impunity, whether you're talking about harmful cultural practices as it affects the vulnerable in society, the women and the children, whether you're talking about Child Rights Act, whether you're talking about whatever it is. So my own ideal is to understand the problem, is to identify, is to look at the cause of the problem, is to look at the effect of the problem, is to look at the extant laws that actually forbids the problem, or those things that we have on ground that we can actually tweak to address the problem. Because I also understand that anything you do on the temporarily, you're actually doing as a stopgap, and every stopgaps are bent to fail once there is a change of leadership. We also know that even in a government where the same political party hands over power to themselves, there is no continuity. So not to talk of when you change IG or when you change the leader of an institution, the new guy is going to bring his own team. He's going to change everything that has been going on. He's going to start his own war, his own battle, his own everything. So nothing is continuous. So the best way to go about anything that you want to be sustainable is to ensure that there is legislation. Legislation is that proper legal framework that tends to cement anything that you put in place. I've also learned that discontent is not alone. I grew up watching the likes of Gani Fire, late for Gani Fire, the Femi Falanas, and several others, who have shown us how not to sit down and get oppressed, but to stand up for our right. But again, their ideal is a little bit different from mine. Their ideal is that power, or is that leadership is a function of you getting into political office after establishing your notoriety as a protester, as an activist. But I don't want to be seen as an activist. For me, there's a line between activism and advocacy. The difference between the two is that an advocate understands legal implications of whatever it is he's doing. He knows the rules of engagement enough to define his problem and know how to engage. Because for an activist, all you owe the authorities is an address. And once they've addressed your problem, your position on the street has been delegitimized. So you cannot remain on the street after your issue has been addressed. Anything you see from then is going to be on you. But if you're an advocate, you are not waiting for an address. You are waiting to be engaged. And those are the two different things. Activists are not brought onto the table for dialogue on any government. They will address you and you go home. But for advocates, you are not shouting on the street. You are not demonizing anybody. You are not burning tires. You are engaging. After creating political will behind the ideal that you have defined, behind the ideals that you have already structured out, behind the ideals that before you even start talking about it publicly, you have done your own work for years. You have begun to define it to the point that when you present your data, nobody, even the insane, will look at the points that you have and will be able to say, if we incorporate this into our administration, it will be a plus for us and it will win us public trust. All politicians, all people in government are shackled by public opinion. And public opinion not only in tantrums, but in the know that this is how nations ought to govern. This is what we are holding you accountable to. And I'll give you an instance by making it simpler. A man who doesn't know what a carpenter does, we call a man who is armed with a hammer to come and knock about something in his home. And he will pay the person for that if you don't know what job a carpenter does. So, but if you know what you can actually hold him to account, monitor what he's doing, check whether what he has done is correct before you can pay for the services and the value he has added to you. So with that, the carpenter knows he cannot knock anything around. Hello, are you still there?
Yes. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
Okay. So the carpenter knows that he cannot play around and get paid. He knows you know what to expect, because people don't do what you expect, but what to inspect. So he knows what you are going to inspect and what you are going to hold him accountable to. But can we say the same for Nigerians today? Do we know what to expect from our leaders? Other than, oh, we are the one that put him into power. He's a man. Even if he's not doing anything, let him continue. We are in power. You understand? And so that's what we've been having over time. So we really cannot blame our failing leaders, our floundering leaders, simply because we are not demanding enough accountability from them, because we don't even know what to demand from them. And it was in the attitude of our youth today, as learned from my own generation and other generations ahead of me, is that we like to raise alarm over things without knowing what to expect. We don't know what we want. Well, we're killing ourselves and troubling ourselves to get out of what we don't like. So when we say, well, what do you want? So when we get there, we'll cross that bridge. And when we get to the bridge, we find ourselves in a worse position than we were before. And so that's exactly what we were trying to avoid by engaging differently, by going the route of advocacy, which has to do with understanding the laws, knowing what to put in, knowing what to push through, and knowing how to engage all arms of government to get what we want. Okay. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. So let me get to the specific questions now. The first one is this: how the power of advocacy, so that we don't lose focus, is what we want to talk about.
Yeah.
How do you build advocacy? And I want you to use your real, I mean, you have identified here the difference between activism and advocacy. So I want to start from there. So if you can, again, bring to the fore the differences between activism and advocacy, and also to, begin to talk about how to build advocacy using some of the experiences you've gathered. So we look at the sector and you tell us how advocacy is built so that people can understand the operational construct and the conceptual underpinning of advocacy. So that we can spread that energy across board. So the difference and how to start an advocacy.
Yeah. First thing, we are all activists. Even right from when we were born. Every child that is born, even some outliers who refuse to cry, will be beaten on their butt so that they can wail. And the wailing shows that environments have changed. Situations have changed. I was in a sack building in a bubble, connected to an umbilical cord, and now I am outside in this strange land and I don't know what's going on here. So the child protests by crying. Now the protest is based on the change of environment, which doesn't necessarily define a want of a new environment, other than my situation have changed and I don't understand where I am. So the child cries in protest. The child is not, the brains and the functions of the systems are not developed enough for the child to articulate what the new system or the new desires or the new cravings are, other than my situation have changed. Now, if a child that is not yet formed or not yet developed, grown and matured, can use wailing, crying, and tantrums to signify that there is a problem somewhere, then adults must be able to define what the problem is and what they want, or what they demand from a new system by defining the change that they hope to see, because you are matured enough to do that. So with activism, you are relating and connecting back to your primal self of saying, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. What do you want? I don't know, I just don't want this. Because that's exactly what you're doing. Because, and the way government have learned over the years to deal with activists is to address their concern and to sow tears in their midst to cause disaffection. Because they know that the people who are shouting and clamoring for one thing or the other, if a distraction comes their way, either with money or either with maybe the arrest of a few people, or either with dispersing the crowd with so and so, or inflicting fears on them, or promising them mortal retribution to their persons, they will all scatter, because there is no definition, there's no exact, there's no defined things, there's no there's a missing link between what connects them other than the discontent. And because discontent is not a strategy, because also I am angry is not a strategy. The strategy there will be when you, I'm not disputing the fact that there's a place for protest. We need to protest. We need to show our discontent about something. It starts from there anyways, that we the people don't want this. But of course, in the age of social media, in the age of technology, there are various ways in which our voice can be heard. There are various ways in which you can amplify what you want without actually causing or creating a platform through which chaos can reign. So with that, the connection between advocacy and activism is this. With the knowledge of advocacy, you can begin to explore what we define as Social Intervention Advocacy Foundation as CF, as the conscious revolution paradigm. What is the conscious revolution paradigm? It simply means the basic things that you need to consider before you engage authorities. Number one, the authorities have there are three pillars of power. The number one pillar is the control of beliefs, control of the minds, control of the hearts and minds of the people, which begins to tell you the reason behind politicians owning media houses, with government controlling the media, understanding, having an association of press, looking at what they are publishing every day to ensure that they don't incite the public. In fact, sanctioning the news that comes out. In other words, let me put it in a nicer way. Controlling what people should be thinking about and how they should perceive things. When things happen, you look at the headlines, it's already telling you how you should think about those things, those issues, how you should perceive those issues. So public perception is being controlled by the media that is being controlled, because the media houses are controlled and financed by politicians who use this to control the hearts and minds. Number two, control of finance, inflation, and taxation. Government can actually weaponize poverty by ensuring that they don't create an enabling environment required for people to thrive on their own. In other words, they will incentivize, laziness by actually giving people monetary donations in terms of some grants or some things, or pay money, trader money, this, that, and all those things. So when you become dependent on government's social or paternalistic handouts, you will never be able to do anything on your own, because already your environment is not producing for you. And again, poverty itself, as defined, is not the lack of money. It is actually the lack of productivity. Because you can actually have money. I can give you $10 million now, and then the next 1 week you blow it off and you're back, you're poor. Because if there's no enabling environment for you to put something down that can generate income for you, that can enable you to employ people and then reduce the poverty rate in the community, then you're not coming out of poverty. Dashing you money is not a cure for poverty. You don't throw money at poverty. You create enabling environment for people to find their ways and make their own money. That's how they build self-confidence in themselves and have a sense of ownership within the polity. So we have seen this as another pillar of power. And the third one is the control of monopoly of violence. They control the closest authority to the people, which is the police. So there's no how you will think of engaging government without thinking of these three pillars of power. And this begins to form your conscious revolution paradigm, which begins to ask you that how do I get people enough to understand what I'm saying, to think together as one on this particular ideal that I've created, which is the cause in which you are trying to get people to get behind. Why NSAS, Reform Police NG? It's not just NSAS, because NSAS on its own is meaningless. You can't just end SARS, because SARS is not really actually a problem. So NSAS, as designed, was an objective towards the end goal of reforming holistically the entire police structure. You understand? So the NSAS ideal was the objective we put in front, which is to say, because again, nobody will rally around for abundance of food, but we all fight against poverty. If there's no fight in your campaign, nobody will rise up, because nobody rises up for doing the commonsensical things. So you need to put an objective that galvanizes the people for education, enlightenment, and awareness, enough for them to understand the end goal so that they can now connect themselves to the why behind the campaign. And what was our why? Our why was, simply put, connecting force. If you look at the politician today, he is stacking up money in some foreign bank account for his children's sake. He is sending children abroad to go and school them somewhere else so that they can be better than other people, so that they can bring them back home to sit on bigger boards, to sit on companies, and then to probably even hand over to their own children. So everybody loves their children. Most of the people you see today jumping buses and doing are working because they want to pay for their children's school fees. In other words, if anything at all connects us as a people, it is the love for our siblings. It is the love for our children. It is the love for the little ones who are the future of tomorrow, in whom we hope to vest or bequeath the legacy, a legacy to. But again, the question is, what legacy are we bequeathing to them? The legacy of poverty, the legacy of chains, the legacy of what? Mental deprivation, the legacy of yes men, the legacy of jumping along with the crowd, with the mob, when there is no wisdom in the mob. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to say, okay, let us build something. Let us begin to raise a critical mass of enlightened leaders, transformational, youthful leaders who are easy to govern, difficult to rule, and impossible to enslave, to deliver the kind of future that leaves a legacy, that is sustainable for our children's children. So after defining that everybody knows that we're not actually fighting for ourselves, and the advocacy is not really for the nihilist of now, or the psychological egoist of now, who is always thinking, oh, for anybody who comes out as an activist or as an advocate, they are fighting for their belly because they want to establish themselves so that they can print poster and run for political office. We have made that clear, that there's nobody under SIA, nobody within our collaboration who is eyeing political office, because we are changing the dynamics from what used to be under the people that we saw that trained us, who believe that leadership is about holding a political office. For us, leadership is responsibility. In other words, you can lead from where you stand. And that's the point we're trying to make, that the formidable changes that we have seen and the transformational changes we have seen in the past 4 years through intervention, through money, billions of naira recovered from police officers, several police officers getting prosecuted for their crimes, even under the oppressive, seeming oppressive climate in the country. We have been able to do this. There are testimonies across Nigeria where people have encountered police officers and they get justice without us burning tires, blocking roads, or causing the death of anybody. So because of that engagement, it was a multifaceted engagement that was actually covered the entire arm of government. The executive were engaged. And when they were engaged about what we're going to do and what we need to do, that there's an executive bill that needs to be passed. Because like I told you, without a proper legislative framework and proper appropriation, you cannot fight or fix the police structure or the law and order within a civilization. So because of this, we have decided to engage the authorities on this. And we engage the executive, we engage the judiciary, we engage the legislature. With the judiciary, what we got out of the engagement was the domestication of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, which is an act that was not domesticated across Nigeria. So they domesticated the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and then also with the legislature, we have the Police Trust Fund Bill and the Police Reform Bill, both of which has been passed to law as we speak. In case a lot of people don't know the importance of this feat, for over 90 years, Nigeria has been under oppression, under an oppressive system, a system that is called the constabulary, as enacted, as empowered by the the Police Act of 1943. With this act, it simply shows you that the police you have are not the police that is meant to serve you, but police that is supposed to protect the government from the people. The police that's supposed to protect the rulership from the ruled. The police of the imperialists. The police that doesn't really care about you, who have been given the impression that they are above every normal citizen. They live in the barracks and they can treat any other person any which way. Which also informs you why of the 400,000, about 350,000 to 400,000 police officers that we have in Nigeria today, 250,000 of them are following VIPs, because that's their primary constituency. Whereas the rest are left to police over 190 million people. So we are under-policed. And this under-policing is not a new problem in Nigeria. It started also, in fact, it was visible. Of course, we know from the history. I don't want to go too deep into the history of policing, but it is necessary that we understand the history. The police Nigerian police force used to be the biggest in Africa. to be the most intelligent in Africa. It used to be the most trained in this region. To the point where every government in those days, we used to have this military interregnum, military years in the 60s and all. There's no military administration that we have that does not have members of the police force in their cabinet, because they are that intelligent. It was so robust, it was so real, it was so, in fact, when the military take over power and all these things, it is the police that handles the intelligence of the nation. But for every coup that we have, where the head of state gets killed, police were blamed that their intelligence was the one that failed, not the military intelligence. So they were punished by being gutted out. They ripped out their hearts, they ripped out their gut, they dismembered them. And that's one of the reasons why in the 66, they removed the brain of the police, which became what they call the National Security Organization, which later became the DSS today. So that was where the National Security Organization came out from, which is the brain of the police. So they took it out. Then they started cutting them into pieces. That's why you have a lot of silos. There's over 20 MDAs that have been carved out of the police already. Every time you see Federal Safety Commission, that's police work. Every time you see Last Man, that's police work. Every time you see EFCC, that's police work. Every time you see so many of them, they've carved a lot of things out. And yet, rather than for the budget of police to continue to grow because they now have less mouth to feed, it continued to dwindle. And it dwindled to the point where, as at 1999, when President Obasanjo came in, when we went into the Second Republic, when we went into a new republic, President Obasanjo looked and he found that we have less than 100,000 police officers. And he said, how can we have a population of over 190 million people and we have less than 100,000? That we must continue to successively employ 50,000 police officers as we proceed. Rather than for this bureaucracy that is fraught with the yes men attitude and that is so balkanized that with politicians who would rather think of what they will benefit from rather than the good of the people. Rather than for them to let the president know that the training facilities we have can only take 13,000 people. There's no how we can be employing 50,000 people for a space of 13,000. How many batches will we have? And the moment you are not taking lectures together, there are some people that will be beneficial, that will be benefiting more than other people. But he just simply said yes, sir, took his money and then started bringing in 50,000 people. And now with these 50,000 people, they don't even bring employed based on meritocracy. In order to facilitate the employment, they gave slots to politicians. They gave slots to pastors. They gave slots to imams. They gave slots to traditional rulers. Go and bring 15 people, bring 30 people, bring 40 people, bring 50 people to complete the quota of each state. And that's exactly why we have a lot of people who came in as political thugs, who came in as the society thugs, the same cultists in your neighborhood, you see him in police officer's uniform tomorrow. He probably did not spend up to 1 week in training camp, because there's no space. Or probably they cannot even afford to feed them for longer than 1 week. So they just give them certificates and push them out and put guns in their hands. How exactly do you want those ones to work based on best practices and be professional? How on earth will you want to go and protest, hoping that such a police officer will protect your rights? So these are some of the things that I meant by understanding the rules of engagement and the kind of people that you're dealing with. And because of the constabulary and because of the 1943 Act, police takes their orders directly from the president. Nobody else. No state governor can control the ACP. He takes his orders from the IG. It's only by respect that he will say yes, sir, to the governor. You understand? So it's not because of any, he doesn't take his orders from governors. If the governor needs anything to be done, probably will go to Abuja so that the president can talk to the IG and the IG can give an order. That's exactly how it works. So that's one of the reasons why, rather than burning tires and wasting our time on the streets, at probably the wrong person, because there's no evidence that the president stays on the balcony watching the whole country. He will get briefs, and the briefs will come through the chain of command. And the chain of command are people who are partisan politicians who will read meanings into your protest and then send back their perception to the president. And that's what's going to rule on. So you can understand the magnitude of this problem. So which is why you find that the moment they hear that, even people, before the president gets to hear anything, it is those who feel that this administration, whichever administration it is, anyway, police problem didn't start under President Muhammadu Buhari. Yes, it's an endemic problem that is associated with Nigeria. If it's even older than Nigeria, The police is over 90 years old. It wasn't born yesterday. It's older than Nigeria's independence. So if you must engage, you must have the knowledge of history. You must have the knowledge of law. You must understand what the new should look like. You must understand how to tread, how to engage them. Because again, remember, the police are also victims of the system. Most of them don't even know any of this history. Most of them don't even know anything else. Why they are wearing the uniform rather than taking orders from those who put them in the system. And those who put them in the system, the moment they do their bidding, they allow them the police to do whatever they want to do as well. Whether they want to steal from the public, whether they want to keep or and collect money, whether they want to hold you hostage and collect ransom, nobody cares, because who do you report to when police officers rob you? You want to go to the president? You want to go to your governor? You want to go to your rep? Who will listen to you? Is it not the same police? Will they judge? Will they be the judge in their own case? Will they rule in favor of you against their fellow people? Where corruption is peer-induced and peer-reinforced within the same system. So, which is what informed the need for us to establish a bridge, a place where people can go to and say, this is what this police officer have done to me, and I want justice, and they get justice. And for the past 4 years, we have been ensuring that within 48 hours, at the most, you get justice from any encounter, any evil encounter with police officers. And the testimonies are there, the track records are there. We have our data as well, which we are not publishing to the world in order to sell ourselves. There's really no gain in that, when we can actually use those data to advise government. Also, the lines that people are calling, sometimes, the Nigerian factor of take me to your leader, they would rather feel encouraged to talk to a doctor than talk to a nurse who is going to just manage them and keep them in the wait. The same way people would rather speak to SEGA than speak to people within the organization. And whereas we made it a policy that we're not establishing a parallel organization away from the police. Rather, we're strengthening institutions. Because two fundamental things in the SDG towards 2030 that we have embraced is quality education, which we have been doing for the past 10 years on Twitter and other platforms. And secondly is the reinforcement. We are reinforcing and strengthening institutions, peace, justice, and strong institutions, which is goal 16, goal 4 and goal 16 of the SDG towards the sustainable development goals. So with that, we decided to empower the police unit, which is the complaints response unit, which we've been doing for the past 4 years, to ensure that they have a trained structure, which also was financed also by some missions in Nigeria, to have a trained set of people who have enough equipment to get calls from all across Nigeria and to tabulate the different problems and to engage these problems and ensure that officers who are contravening the law are brought to book. The Administration of Criminal Justice Act is there. You understand? The human rights laws of 2010 is there. And the anti-torture law is there, of 2017 is there. So there are so many laws applicable, but they are not being enforced. And the only way they can be enforced is if you have a strong enough bridge that can hold police to account. And that's what we have been able to build over the years. So this is different from what we used to have, where you have activists stay under the tree, make noise, burn tires, and chant war songs, all in day, hoping that government will one day get tired of their nuisance and then address them. We don't want to do it that way. We want to do something, because no government build a nation alone. They do it in unison with the people. So we are contributing our quota to nation building, and government is somewhere. And that's exactly where the handshake is. And that's where we're getting what we want. And that's why we're able to put police in check right from 2017. You will agree with me that before 2017, nobody can confront SARS. Nobody can even complain or send out a SOS message that this is what SARS did to me, because they know that they will come for them. But after 2017, since there was a place established where people can go to call and to report, and they get justice, they were bold enough to come on social media to say, this is what was done to me, this is the picture of the officer that did it, and I'm looking for justice. And we engage. We don't even go for their petitions to come, which is supposed to be the norm in any, right now, the way it is, and with the state taking over the judicial panel of inquiry across Nigeria now, they are not out there to be looking for cases. It is you that have been violated that we have to come and bring your petition before we can, and they are not there to judge. They are there to listen to all parties in fairness, then engage and let the law take its course, based on certain rules for the tribunal. So that's exactly how that works. But as at that time, people were having it their way, because they can call you at 3 a.m., they can call you at 2 a.m. that this is what's happening, and then we engage. I know how many highway cases that we've engaged in that have resulted in justice to the point where people don't get robbed. And I know those ones who have been robbed who got back their money, and who also ensure that those police officers don't remain in the system. So, and also since 2017, every single person that has been shot by police officers in Nigeria today, have been brought to book. And our partners, our collaborators, and all the different law firms that we are engaging with, that we have engaged, that are working in partnership with us, are following up on those cases till today. So what are we saying? We were able to make a lot of headway by engaging in such a way that let me translate what we actually did. This is in Nigeria, we have in Africa generally, we have leaders who sit tight in power, in office, who maximize their use of the monopoly of violence. By calling for police reform, what you are simply asking is that the government should whittle down their own power. Remember, I mentioned the 3 pillars of power. So you're telling them to whittle down their power. Already, on the grounds of control of beliefs, engagement of heart and mind and the rest, that has also been taken from them, because social media is far more powerful than the press today. So also when it comes to tax, finances, and the rest, BVM is there. There are alternatives. There are people who doesn't really engage the banks as such. You understand? They do their transaction and they do a lot of things. So government will at some point feel that power is coming out of them. So if you don't watch the attitude with which you present your cases, you will lose them all. So which is one of the reasons why we are not only doing things, we're also showing what the path to leadership from where people stand in order to engage authorities to get the best out of them. And that's why we have the laws that we have today, which form the basis.
Yeah, because of time.
Yes, sir.
Shega, let me just ask these 2 strategic questions so that, because I'm sure we have to do this again. And I mean, I wish we can just have you to do a seminar. But of course, we'll maximize and optimize the opportunity we have there. And the question is, can you build, I mean, you've grounded your theories in empirical studies in the sense that you've been able to do so much, and I appreciate that. So you are not just theorizing here. There are, I mean, your theories are empirically validated, in the scheme of things. And I'm looking at how to transfer this energy, beyond the police. There are many aspects of our national life, even in other sectors like customs and what have you, where we need advocacy. And you've been able to do something with the police. So my own is that, can you share with us 3, 4, 5 principles? Okay, people want to start out. Let's say their own focus is to bring end to the impunity. Like, for example, let me narrate an experience now. There was a time I got a car and I actually paid for custom duties, but the paper given to me was fake. And I didn't know, the normal thing. So I was traveling to Ibadan one day and they stopped me. And I was, of course, stopped with confidence, gave them the papers, only for me to realize I was fake. And it was like a root shock. I mean, there are so many things happening. So if people want to form advocacies around different issues, but not necessarily the police, it could even be media, it could be university, it could be a social problem. What are the principles? Because I want Nigerians to understand this so that people can also, in their own little way, begin to start pockets of advocacies out there. Because to me, that's the whole essence of this conversation.
Thank you very much. First thing, let me clear the air on some things. There's no such thing as social media advocacy, or there's no such thing as social media activist. Social media itself is a vehicle. They don't call you transportation or logistics or middle class men or logistic worker because you are taking buses to work. Your vehicle to wherever you are going is insignificant, doesn't really matter. So social media is just a vehicle. The message is actually the key. The course itself is what you are looking at. These are just 7 keys that you need to factor in, regardless of what you're dealing with. Number 1 is you are trying to solve a problem. The reason why we went to school in the first instance is to apply our education, our understanding after gathering knowledge, is to apply our understanding. Every book you read, you are not just reading the text and pouring it out. You are looking at the thinking behind the writings. Because education is not just mere literacy, the ability to read and write. It is about to become. When you are educated, your eyes are open to a lot of things, and it's not confined to the four walls of a university. It's something that is continuous. It's something that also you will live on. You continue to learn even after you have left school. And the idea is for you to go to school, come out, and then impact society based on what you have become. So to do that, that's why they allow you to, they tell you what problem have you seen, have you identified in society that you want to engage. That's why you write projects, thesis. So when you finish BSc, you want to go back and do more. You want to study, be a master's or what have you. Your thesis also will have to be expanded. There are some requirements from you. So the same way, if you want to advocate for something, advocacies are more or less designed and engineered towards policy change. Because without policy change, you can't have fundamental, tweaks in a system to bring about a different result. I'll give you an example. To fix Nigeria, if we say Nigeria is a factory, a purpose-built factory that manufactures rubber shoes, over time, taste and fashion have changed. Nobody wears rubber shoes anymore. Nobody is demanding rubber shoes anymore. The rubber shoe company is now losing money. They can no longer manufacture because they are no longer profitable. They are no longer paying their staff. And the economy of that particular industry is falling, and a lot of workers there are complaining and rioting. And then somebody comes with an idea. Hey, how do we solve this problem? This manufacturing company is no longer profitable. What do we do? Somebody suggests that they should fire the head of the place. That is the problem. Once you fire the head, all the problems will be solved. Firing the head of that company, will it change the demand and the taste in demand in fashion and taste in the society? Will it allow more people to start buying shoes overnight? No. Firing the workers there and replacing them with new workers from Edo State, because the people there are from the north. Will it change what they're manufacturing? Will it change the demand of what they're manufacturing? Of course not. So the ideal is to do a market research to understand what the people want actually from a factory, a purpose-built factory. What exactly what is the output that people will love? If the output is loafers, if the output is moccasins, if the output is shoes that people wear today, modern day shoes, then to produce modern day shoes, what do we need? We cannot continue to keep the factory as installed with specific machineries and expect a new product to automatically come out of the other end along the production line. The solution is to uninstall all the going concern of that factory and install the machines that will produce that which is desirable for profitability and also to bring about effective demand. So that is the job, the analysis that is expected from anybody who is going into advocacy. An activist will simply complain about the problem, build an NGO towards the problem, raise money with the NGO towards the problem, spend the money and maintain their livelihood, install and express and perpetuate their notoriety based on the problem, but the problem will not change. But with an advocate, what you do as an advocate is to understand the problem enough to, number one, identify the problem. What exactly is the problem? There are two problems: the satisfaction of staffers of the work, of the lack of profitability of the going concern, and also the lack of effective demand for the produce and the production for the output of that particular company. Those are the fundamentals. So you have identified the problem. What is the cause of the problem? The cause of the problem is majorly the change in taste and fashion. People no longer buy these shoes. The raw materials, because we are not making money, we cannot even buy raw materials and the quality ones to even manufacture effectively because we don't have much money. But we know the cause of the problem. So the effect of the problem, is bringing disaffection between the people, between the workers, between the economy that is even housing that particular factory. They can't pay their taxes. They can't pay their rent. They can't satisfy their workers. The relationship between the workers and the management, it has been strained to the point where workers are beginning to steal from the company. Meanwhile, they are not selling anything. And the people working there are also members of society who can feed their children, who can take care of their homes. Their children are on the street, robbing. Their wives are on the street, fighting, quarreling, owing people money. So everything is upside down. And somebody is saying, fire the head. This is the problem. If you fire him, we'll be satisfied that somebody has fallen, but will it solve the problem? No. So is there a law that is put in place that can regulate such factory to say you are too old to be operating in this way? Let us give you subvention. Let us change your equipment to modern day equipment. Let us give you an enabling environment and bringing people to come and teach you how to produce and to maximize your productivity. So with that, so what do we need to put in place to get that done, to get that law done? We need to now begin to look at the likely solutions, of course, subventions, education, engagement, and the rest. At the end of the day, who benefits from this solution? The factory workers will have better jobs, they will get better pay, they will have output for their work, they will have reward for their labor, people will begin to buy again, company will thrive, the management too will make money, they will diversify, they probably will have a market where they will have showroom, employ more people, and the rest of it. Who are the beneficiaries? The entire society benefits, the country benefits, the state benefits. So how do we begin to create what they call the advocacy conversion funnel? It starts with awareness. How do we create awareness? Awareness can be done because you may not be able to have a budget for it. Just like me, I'm not raising funds, I'm not looking for grants. I've been doing this with my children's college fund because I know that it is one thing to prepare your children for the future. It is another thing to prepare the future for them. And as a father who wears many hats, you must do both. There must be a balance between both because there are children that will come from abroad tomorrow who will be kidnapped at the end of their life. But if their father or their parents have come together to make society better, they will be kidnappers. So that's exactly how we are not from a society, but we are ourselves as society. We cannot continue to point fingers at people, at leadership, when we are the ones stampeding them to power without knowing why they are in power, without knowing how to engage them enough to do what we actually demand, because we don't even know what we want. Yeah. So the awareness is key to let people understand what is at stake, to analyze the problem enough for people to have a stake in this. How do you get the people's interest? Milk the discontent. We are angry because we don't have jobs. We are angry because our jobs, the jobs that those who don't have jobs are underemployed because they are not happy with their jobs and they are not earning enough. Most of them have been turned into casual workers. And this is the story of the banking sector. This is the story of the tech sector. This is the story of a lot of sectors in Nigeria. The companies that are not making money cannot continue to hold on to staff for 20, 30 years or 40 years in service. What for? They are not bringing any value to the table. It is true for UBA, as it is true for Transcorp, as it is used for different banks, laying off people. The analogy is real. It is not just theory. We are not catastrophizing. We are not blowing things out of proportion. So the discontent here, rather than say government provide jobs, it is more or less government provide enabling environment where companies can begin to review their being and their purpose in society, enough to be able to create jobs and be able to change the value system enough to be able to make money so that they can spend money and so that the economy can work. Because again, we look at GDP. GDP doesn't show the quality of life. It only shows spendings. If we're spending money on hospital, on buying mosquito repellent or buying mosquito drugs or so, the GDP will rise, that there's activity in the economy. But does it show that we're living a quality life? No. What matters is the spendings, is the savings, is the salaries. And if these are true, how do we begin to consider what connects us together? And that's where common grounds comes. We are not all happy. So it is false, or it is disingenuous, and it is mischievous to assume that you are more angry than another. Everybody have issues that they are dealing with, including the rich. Those who got their stores burnt down and robbed and all will never they will never give legitimacy to people who are protesting because they've lost something. Billions of naira have gone down the drain. They cannot pay back. This is investment that they got on a facility. They will never pray for you. And once your advocacy or your activism have gone wrong, whether you claim responsibility or you don't claim responsibility, it shows you are responsible, whether you like it or not, because leadership is responsibility. So as an advocate, the first thing you need to know is that I am taking responsibility for this cause that I'm running. Every single policy, every single dot on the I, every single cross on the T must be ensured, must be done. There must be an office simulation before you take it to the street. And once you take it to the street, the narrative, everybody who is contributing to that, who is becoming an evangelist of that particular movement or cause, must embody the vision just like you. So it's not something somebody will just jump on a hashtag, start raising funds, and start doing anything that they like to the point where blood will be everywhere. That's not how it runs. It's not just about the anger. It's not about the exploitation of the hunger. It's not about the exploitation of the availability of youth on the street because they are not in school. It is about knowing what is worth fighting for. What is worth fighting for. So the awareness must be so strategic that people understand that this is what connects us all, regardless of our tribe, our language, or whatever it is. And this is how we're going about it. It is not about raising signs and showing on TV, crowding anywhere under coronavirus. It is about making people understand the issues enough to say, based on my giftings, I'm a musician, I am going to sing about it. Oh, I am an artist, I am going to make artworks on it. Oh, I am a broadcaster, I am going to talk about this on my program. Oh, I am working in government, I'm going to excuse me, I'm going to run this by my boss at the bureaucracy. Oh, I am a politician, I'm going to talk about this in my party. Oh, I am this daughter of so and so and so. I'm going to let my father understand properly what the pulse on the street is and for him to engage better. This is exactly how advocacy runs. So your public awareness campaign for social change will take different steps. But you must choose your end goal. What is your vision? If you pick any one of these people on the street today and ask them, what is the vision of this thing? They say it's about everything, so it's beyond police. Okay, what is it? It's everything. It can't be everything. You cannot come out for one thing. You can't jump from social change to institutional reforms and then to regime change. It doesn't work that way. It's like you going to battle, with infantry and then begin to climb trees in an attempt to fly to go and start fighting helicopters or planes. It's not done that way. You must count the cost of everything that you're doing. Because the moment people start dying because of the cost, blood is already on everybody's hands. Nobody cares whose fault it is. So the most important thing is to identify your end goal, define your objectives, which must be measurable. There's something called operations research for everybody who has gone beyond their BSc to master's level. To teach operations research, which talks about men, money, materials, machines, resources, time, promotions. You also need to define your audience. Who is this for? The target for us was the people, the vulnerable in society. That would have mostly the future of Nigeria. People between the people who constitute 70% of Nigeria's population. Because we believe that when these people, this age bracket speaks, it is Nigeria that is speaking. No government that is saying, we hear that the most populous age bracket in this country are saying one thing, and then we turn deaf ears to it. Because those are the voting public. They are the people. They are the country. They are the future. They are Nigeria. So you must take them, seriously. But again, for them to take you seriously, you must be able to articulate objectively, sincerely, and patriotically what you are fighting for. And again, you are not fighting against anybody. See, the moment you begin to see it as a we against them thing, you have failed. Instantly. We didn't start the NSAS Reform Police NG to wage war against the police. No. It is not about the criminal, it's about the crime. In as much as some societies create rehabilitation centers for those who commit crime, it shows you that they're not against those who commit crime. They are against the crime. So you are guilty of jungle justice if you begin to make enemies of the police. And this is not to say that we have a few bad eggs. No, we're dealing with a culture of impunity, which is why it will take time for us to fix the problem. Police who have been used all their lives, over 90 years of an institution that is older than Nigeria, who have been bred in impunity, who have been working under the culture of impunity, cannot be changed overnight because of a policy change. Now we have a new law in Nigeria, which is the Police Act of 2020. The Police Act of 2020 simply shifts the police from being a draconian, oppressive force into a police that is poised and repositioned for enhanced service delivery. So how do we begin to reorientate the Kasalis and Kasimus and Isiakas that are in the police system who doesn't even understand what the Police Act means, what the force, what the rules that guides the standard operating procedures meant in the first instance? People who, for the life of them, all they have ever heard as an order is go and bring 5 Okada this weekend that we can tax 10,000 naira. There are patriotic people who went into the police to serve their nation. But this is what they met, impunity. They can't reject this order because without taking those orders, like I said, impunity is peer reinforced, peer induced and peer reinforced. Meaning, if you don't do as they do in Rome, if you don't behave like Romans, you will remain on the spot. You will not be promoted. There are people who have spent 15, 20 years in the police without a single promotion. Coupled with the fact that they live in the worst of places, coupled with the fact that their pension is not guaranteed, coupled with the fact that if they get shot during an operation, they will die like that, and their colleagues will be the ones donating money for their families, with the fact that no 2 police officers in the same rank collect the same salary, with the fact that the IG is waging war against the Police Service Commission, whose duty is to recruit police officers, whose duty is to promote police officers, whose duty is to also punish and discipline police officers. So the problem is not a person, it is a system. It is a systemic problem, and to engage systemic problem, you don't do it with tantrums. It will only cost lives for nothing, and you will still not be able to articulate anything. It's not a dash, it's a sprint. It's not a sprint, sorry, it's a marathon. And you have to do it in a way that you can measure your achievement. It's not about the ransom notes of, if you don't do this, we'll do this, we want this, we want that. The government doesn't even know precisely what if they know what should be done, you think they're going to wait for you to pretend before they do it? The problem is more complicated than that, and it takes people who have done their homework to begin to create a blueprint of how we can get out of this. And this is what we've been doing, and government have been responding. I am not saying that they took it as serious as they ought, but we've been moving. We're not where we used to be. But again, the way the thing must be presented must be in such a way that police themselves have ownership in that particular advocacy. Police of Nigeria today, which is one of the reasons why we are not at war with each other, is simply because they know that if I call you out for punishment or for one thing or the other, it's because you deserve to be punished. Because the police institution themselves deserve to be trusted. We have to win trust of the public, because the police are the public and the public are the police. Under normal circumstances, there should be 2 fundamental principles guiding any police in the 21st century. Number 1 is the intelligence-led policing principle. And the number 2 is the community policing principle. A lot of Nigerians will not understand most of these principles because a lot of things means different meaning in Nigeria, just like restructuring. We are saying that the just future of every sector is the private sector. The future of the police is actually state policing. But are we right for state policing without restructuring? No, we are not. So pending that time, we need to begin to apply principles that we engage the police enough to engage society in a way that will bring unity. You don't need AK-47 on our street if you trust the people that you have been dealing with over the years to give you information. And that's all you need. UK police don't carry guns. They ask questions with their notepad. And that's how we started in Nigeria. Anyways, if you look at all this old police stuff and all, you see that police take notes and they report. And also, when it comes to that's community policing right there. Police officers must engage the public, not necessarily while they are prosecuting criminal activities or prosecuting crime. Come to their school and teach them civics. Go to universities and supervise project and thesis. Inform people about what is happening and what modernizations you're bringing into the police system. Because when something happens in your jurisdiction where you have been engaging, you know the names of the youth in your area. There's no need to do a random raid accusing everybody to be a boy when you have been dealing with them for years. You are an authority already. The kids in the area are already looking forward to be like you. You are a superhero to them. So these things are simple. You don't even need a big budget to achieve this. And what is intelligence-led policing? You don't need guns. You just need brains.
Sega, you know what? Thank you very much. There is so much to talk about. So much. Wow. I think what we're going to do is that the next time I'm going to be talking to you, we will do a proper studio interview that is pre-recorded so that we can, because as we're just talking, you see me writing notes. There is just so many things we have left hanging and that we need to talk about, but we don't have all the time because I didn't intend for this to be more than an hour. We've already crossed that 1 hour gap. So I'm just going to ask you, before you give your passing shots, Is there still anything you want to talk about that is burning in your heart in this regard? I mean, let me just give you that latitude.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Police reform or security sector reform is a very huge thing, and that's one of the reasons why I poured my heart, my life, my everything, and resources to it. And that's one of the reasons why we did not soil it by seeking funds from people who would tarnish and poison the whole thing. And that's one of the
Let me
reasons why
also take you on there. How do you raise funds for what you do?
we
How do you
don't
raise money? Because,
we
I
don't
mean, it
raise
involves a
money.
lot.
We don't. Yes, it involves a lot, and we've been spending a lot on a monthly basis anyway for the past 4 years. But the way
So
it
where
is,
do you get the money from?
people who believe in the vision, people are close-knitted associates, organizations that we collaborate with, and the rest. They, when we have issues or projects to do, we tell them the cost of those projects and all, and they fund it. So it's not that we are raising funds for ourselves. It's not that we're looking for money. People just get things done. Oh, what are the projects you're doing for this month? We
Then
itemize them.
another very important question. How did you win out of the police to start working with them? How did you make
Well,
inroad into the Nigerian police force? How did you make an
well,
inroad?
it took
Because I
it
know
took
that's a
time. It's
tall
not.
order. You can't just show up and say I'm doing advocacy and
Yeah, it's you see, like I told you, politicians and people in public service are shackled by public opinion a lot, especially if it is structured, if it is organized, and if the advocacy is strong enough. Our advocacy is known globally, which is why people who perched on the ordinary hashtag gained a lot of traction. They didn't know the history behind NSAS Reform Police NG. They don't know much about the advocacy. They didn't even contact the advocacy to start with. They just used the hashtag, and everybody came together thinking, oh, it is this advocacy that we've always known, that we've always trusted. You understand? So, and that was it. So to show you the potency of that. So police saw that from the beginning, that the people they are dealing with are not just people, random citizens who are hiding. Our faces are out there. We are ready to stand for what we believe in and even die for what we believe in. And we're ready to engage to any level. And we have been telling them that, look, we know what to do to shut down the trainings and the collaborations of Nigerian police with other nations. We can do that. But the moment we do that, it will be a tall order to reverse the whole thing. We'll show them all our stuff. We didn't hide anything. All our principles, all our models were published. So it was based on the principle of transparency and accountability. And of course, so like I told you, we were showing leadership as we proceed. So it's not something that we believe that we're doing against them. We're saying, without us, police cannot protest. They cannot riot. They cannot go on strike. You understand? So this is the only opportunity that all the things that have been paining them will come out through the people who believe in them, that they can be better. Where was the case where if you pick any police officer on the street randomly, they should be able to represent Nigeria anywhere in the world. What is training in the police? Zero. Training to a junior officer is punishment. It's like going to prison. They tell you to go to somebody's village somewhere where you have to carry mattress and your own water, where there's no toilet. And they say you're going for training. So this is what we see. We know the problems, we understand the problem, we feel their pulse, and we represent them as well, because they are also members of society. So this is one of the reasons why police felt this is actually for us as well. So if this guy is telling you not to do certain things, respect it. And that informs the reason why a police on the highway, you probably have not seen me before, we hear my name from people they're about to victimize, and we change his mind instantly and say, no, that guy is representing us and is fighting for us. We don't want to offend him. Yeah, go. So which begins to tell you that the police itself is not rotten. It's a leadership problem. It's a lack of supervision problem. It's a lack of leadership example problem. And it's a lack of engagement problem. When you engage in Nigerian police and you talk to them, you give them a reorientation and you engage them, you'll be shocked at the kind of things you hear that, if we have these kind of things regularly, we will know how to engage the public. They don't even know their public. They don't know the public that they are policing. So when they see a young guy with a phone that can pay their gratuity 10 times over, they see him as a thief. Because they see their salary, they see their pension, and they see the cost of this phone, and they feel this guy can never have worked. I have been working for 20 years, I couldn't afford this. So the prejudice, towards the people is the same prejudice towards the police. The youth see most police officers as corrupt and as rogues who is about to rob them. Then the police themselves see the public as criminals. Everybody is guilty until proven innocent. So with that, it's like a mutually assured destruction. Like I said, we're dealing with a culture here. Until you understand the culture, you will know that protest will not solve it. When the police see you on the street chanting against them and the rest, they will see it as a battle line being drawn, and they'll see it as a we against them thing. If they now get a directive to go and engage them, any excuse, anything that they can use to justify an attack on their person, they will shoot. And once they shoot, blood starts flowing based on ignorance on both sides. So which is why I'm saying
Mr.
Sega.
Yeah. Thank you so very much. I mean, I know if I allow you, you can continue till tomorrow because you're very passionate about what you're talking about, and I quite appreciate that. So, but we need to go. We need to close, and I wish we have more time, but we don't want it to be more than now. So, as we close, what will be your passing shot, and what would you want to tell Nigerians so that we can bring this to an end? But we have to do this again and again, because I underestimated what you are going to be bringing to the table. And now that I've seen what this is, we should have allotted more time. But like I said, we'll make it more formal. And let me also advise, possibly you should also write a book or do a seminar to share some of these things.
If you can see my table now, there are books upon books. I have over 20 manuscripts of different books coming out. But I don't
they have to.
The kind of writer that puts books whose books will be down any shelf. I want to be able to establish something so that when you see the books, you recognize what I'm talking about in each of the books. You know, it is necessary because that's how we leave a legacy for all our children. There is proper accountability, you know, in all the things that we do. And it's,
so, your passions, what would you want to tell Nigerians as we bring this to a close?
I want to continue to appeal to Nigerians that our situation, what is happening to us, is actually meant to challenge us so that we can actually flap our wings and soar like eagles, you know, into the clouds. So we must not see or play the victim card. We are not victims of anything or anyone. What we have is a terrible system that we have inherited, and we can engage properly by applying ourselves, applying the technology that is around us, applying every single thing that we have gained, the advantage we have over our generations before us, you know, by ensuring that we focus on nation building. And we begin to ask ourselves, what exactly is my contribution? What exactly am I bringing to the table? What value am I creating with what I'm doing? Is this sustainable? Is this something I want to continue to do? Like I said, identify the problem, cause of the problem, effect of the problem. Whether there is an extant law forbidding that problem, look at it. Do we need to repeal and replace the law? If it is, how do we begin to go about it? Engage, hire your witness, employ your witnesses. There are people who know more than you on certain things. Engage them, talk to them, share the vision with them. You know, look at the likely solutions, look at the benefits of the solution, look at the beneficiaries. If the template above is applied with your unique and clear definition of the problem and answers to the critical questions posed, I bet society will be much better and things will move much faster. We have come too far. We can no longer leave our collective destinies in the hands of economic gormandizers. You know, we have to take responsibility and act from where we are. It takes internalizing and critical thought and formulation of a sustainable plan and engagement of strategic planning to develop something that works in the interest of all across sectors. And going by this, I just want a situation where we can build a nation that we can call our own.
Thank you very much. Well, I must really thank you sincerely for your brilliant presentation. And one thing I appreciate so much about you is that you are very knowledgeable in what you are doing, and you have the relevant facts and truths, and you have grounded everything in empirical studies, and you are very much informed. Thank you for what you shared with us. And I could see some of the comments from the other viewers. They're also lending their voice to the fact that you are loaded and they've been blessed. I mean, somebody is saying, wonderful session. This man is loaded. Thank you very much for speaking to issues that are in the front burner as far as our nation is concerned. And thank you for honoring this invitation at short notice. And thank you for also, doing this. So we have to do this again. And like I said, It will be more elaborate, it will be more structured, and we might have to use the proper studio. Until I come your way another time, I want to thank you. And on behalf of everyone watching, thank you very much for your time. I truly, 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 truly appreciate your contributions. So everyone, thank you. We'll have to call it a day here. And I look forward to, another time where we're going to have another opportunity to talk about what is going on in our nation. Like we said, this is nation building. And it's a privilege, to anchor this first episode of it with my dear brother and friend, Shegalink. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you another time when we do this again. God bless you, and do have a very great week ahead of you. Bye for now.